Welcome to Veterans Archives, where your story matters. We are dedicated to preserving the stories of our nation's heroes for future generations. Today is Thursday, March 6th, 2025. We're talking with Jon Bureman, who served in the United States Air Force. So good morning, Jon.
Hey, good morning, Bill. How are you?
Great, great. And it's great to have you here this morning.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So we're going to start out real simple. When and where were you born, Jon?
I was born in June 28th, 1974, in Austin, Texas.
Okay. So you've been in Texas most of your life then?
Actually, no. So in 1974, when I was born, my dad was in the United States Air Force as well. Probably 2 years he was active. So I was born and we were stationed at Bergstrom Air Force Base, which is now an airport, an international airport in Austin. But yeah, I was there till I was about 3 years old. And then my dad got orders to Okinawa, Japan. So at three, we upped and moved to a whole new country. So I didn't know at the time, but we were in Okinawa, Japan from 1979 to 1982. So I remember going to elementary school there and kindergarten. Um, Going to Zukaran Elementary School. We were on Camp Foster, which actually was a Marine base. And my dad being Air Force, that makes sense to me, not being at Kadena. So anyways, yeah, being in Japan for those ages, we then got orders to Limestone, Maine. So living Okinawa, Japan, and moving up to the tip of Maine near Canada, 5 miles from Canada, was another culture shock. Um, but yeah, Austin, Texas was where I was born.
Okay. No, yeah. Well, if you think about it, there are actually children who are American citizens that were born in Germany that have never lived in America. All they know is living in Germany. So that's very interesting. Did you have any brothers or sisters?
Yeah, I have a sister named Amy. She's 2 years younger than me. Love her to death. So yeah, she actually lives 5 minutes from me in Oklahoma. So
Oh, that's
yep,
very cool. Yeah,
right.
I have a sister named Amy as well.
Oh, cool, cool.
She's a year and a half older than me, so I think our interactions are probably different. But I do love my sister. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
So you lived in Okinawa, moved to Maine, and then how long were you in Maine?
Great question. So 1982, we got to Maine, and that's when fourth, fifth grade, fifth grade all the way up to freshman, I started creating friends, making friends, understanding, what it was to be a friend. I thought, we were in Maine for 7 years, and I hit my freshman year, and I remember my dad coming home and said, "Hey, I got some bad news and some good news. We're moving again, but we're moving back to Japan." So none of that was good news to me because I mean, you're taking me from my child development years and now I have to go back to another foreign country.
Right.
So that was a lot to handle, but I mean, it was probably the best thing that happened to me or, in my childhood and teenage years was to go experience another culture um with able to see more than I was when I was 3. Um and I love the Japanese culture. I can't wait to go back.
Uh huh. So now, did
Yeah,
you stay there right through high school?
right. I went to Yokota, Japan. So it was a DoD school, Department of Defense, and I was there from freshman, and I ended up graduating there and then joining the military.
Okay. Wow, that's so I want to stop there for just a second. I got a couple of questions to ask you. When you kind of look back on those formative years from, earliest memories kind of forward, tell me some things about your dad. Like what do you remember about your dad in those years?
Oh man, I remember a lot about my dad as far as not just looking at pictures and sparking memories, but just memories of their own. Going skiing in Maine, going snowmobiling, going to my first wrestling match. I am a huge fan of WWF or WWE, whatever they call it these days.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's my escape. So yeah, my dad is a great mentor, a great father, and a great man.
Okay. So he was there,
Yes.
like, for you.
Yes.
Oh, that's great.
Yes.
So tell me
Yep.
about your mom. What are some of your memories of your mom?
Uh, my mom is the one who was um, loving, caring, taught me my values, my morals, my respect, my integrity. Um, yeah, she was a very, 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 very good supporter for me and my values of I guess who would say who John is
Hmm.
as a person. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So good childhood then, good memories. Even though you like had to move around a little bit and that kind of stuff, you still pretty stable then.
Yeah. And I'm going to talk about this now because it'll lead to somewhere in the future of my personal experiences.
Okay.
It was a it was a very loving, caring. I would quote Brady Bunch family or Leave It to Beaver family,
Uh huh.
um, but also with a hidden a hidden thing inside of the family that we didn't know about, and that was my dad's alcoholism, which he kept. No one knew. You know what I mean? But
Right.
he's been sober 27, 28 years now. So that would, yeah, it was, it always looks like lights, camera, action, and everything's golden. But, sometimes there's some stuff in the closet that you never knew about. But it's fine. That's part of growing up.
Right. And I think that the minute we think we have the market cornered on weirdness in our family, we discover that other people have either similar problems or sometimes even worse problems than we have, and it brings everything into perspective.
Exactly.
Yeah. So you go to school, you make it through high school, and so you immediately joined the service then after high school?
So I graduated in 1992. I was working at the commissary as a bagger. I mean, my favorite job still today. And then I was going to University of Maryland while in Japan. It was like a circuit college or something.
Hmm.
Um, so I did that for a year. And being a teenager, being 20 minutes away from Tokyo is an amazing experience, and also kind of messing with something you shouldn't. Because I mean, we had free reign to do whatever we wanted as a kid in another country. I was driving a Nissan Skyline, like I said, going to Tokyo at all hours of the night, going to clubs, drinking, just it was the Wild Wild West. So after coming home intoxicated after a few days or a few weeks, my dad finally said, "Hey, you got two decisions. You continue to work or go to school and pay rent, or join the military and continue on, the family tradition," which my grandpa was in, my uncles were in, my dad was in, my brother-in-law's in. It seemed like the right thing to do.
Hmm.
So I said, "Okay, take me to the recruiter and sign me up."
All right. I want to stop you there for just a second because something kind of strikes me here. So you were out doing a lot of partying. At the same time, your dad was still an alcoholic and no one knew.
Yes.
And you think maybe he was concerned that you were headed down that same road?
That's a great question. I never even thought about that. Man, yeah, I'm sure he was as an amazing father. He was probably, "Oh, let's stop the buck here. I see where you're going or heading," because that's probably the same path he was.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. So you go to the
try something
recruiter.
else.
So you go to the
Yeah,
recruiter and you're probably like a recruiter's dream, right? I used to recruit, and when someone walked into my office with their dad, they're like, "Oh, I want to join." It was like, "Okay, let's do this."
yeah. Nathaniel Cotton was his name. I still remember walking in the door, and his smile couldn't have been any bigger. It's like, "We got one." So yeah,
Right. Right. Well,
I
it's not
signed the
easy to
dotted line.
get in the Air Force either. I mean, they have a little bit higher standards sometimes than other branches of service too.
Right. I took the ASVAB, and I know I did horrible on general. I did horrible on electric. I did horrible on mechanics, but my math and general were like out the door.
Hmm.
Um, and I never knew how they picked career fields, but I think I got Morse code. I think only a certain mind can only, I don't know. I don't know.
No, no. I've talked to a couple of people who were in that field. In fact, I was talking with a Vietnam vet last week. It does take a certain your mind has to work a certain way to do that. It's just not something you can just jump into and be good at it.
Right. I'm really, I love numbers. I love solutions. I love thinking out the box. I love spelling words backward, stuff like that.
Yeah.
I'm now, so I talked about my dad's alcoholism. I also am an alcoholic, but
Hmm.
also sober 6 years. So I've been following my dad's life and career and style step by step, just different time frames.
Right.
So now that I'm clear and sober and understand more about who I am, not what I was, um, with that poison, I I I take in the challenges and I accept the difference of my mind. Where I used to think it was a disability, or I'm different, or I don't fit in with other like-minded people.
Right.
So it's been a struggle, but in the past couple years, it's been a blessing
Yeah.
because I now understand that I am a little different. But
Right. Well,
that's going off subject. But
well, no, congratulations on your sobriety as well. Let's go.
thank you.
Let's go back to that recruiter's office. You sign on the dotted line, and then I want to know how this works because you're in Japan, so they fly you all the way back to the States to go to base. How'd that work? Walk me through this.
So what I've heard was when you go to when you start going through the process, you go to MEPS and they poke, prod, stick, whatever for you. I never went to MEPS. I never went to a hotel and hung out with a bunch of guys, got busted basic. I did go through the medical process. I remember getting my blood drawn and I fainted. I remember, you know, et cetera, et cetera. It wasn't fun, but yeah, I did that, and then I had to say goodbye to my friends and family at Narita Airport, Japan, and they put me on a big ass plane, and I got to smoke cigarettes on the airline while I'm flying to San Antonio. About a 16-hour flight. Um, they dropped me off at San Antonio, and I got picked up by some guy yelling at me. So, welcome to the U.S. and here's your shit.
Right, right. Well, so everybody has a different experience, like, or how they experienced it. What was that like for you to immediately get into basic training and they start right in?
I mean, with the lack of sleep and seeing other people that, where'd you come from? Who are you? I'm from Japan. It's just, I am constantly having to explain, no, I don't know karate. No, I can't fly a fighter pilot jet because I'm in the Air Force. It's just stereotypes that other people think that I have to reassure them that I'm not that. I am me,
Right.
and then have to explain me, which isn't easy.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Right. How long was basic training?
It was 6 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah,
All
yeah.
right.
I went in with open general, so I didn't have a position to, I didn't know what job I was getting into. So, like I said earlier, they gave me a big old list, and I said, "Let me pick printer Morse code," and that's what I got.
Okay.
So,
And then
mhm.
you get done with basic training, and then you went on to your schooling after that.
Yeah, and so I finished basic training, and I got my orders to Fort Devens, Massachusetts.
Hmm.
Now, I thought I was in the Air Force, but now you're sending me to an Army base. I'm now even more confused.
Right.
So I'm not blue anymore. I'm purple because I'm with Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines. We'll put Coast Guard in there maybe. So it's a chameleon of uniforms instead of just one separate unity, I guess. Does
Yeah.
that make sense?
No, it,
Yeah.
it completely does. Like, a lot of people don't know this. The Marine Corps doesn't have their own military police school, so Marine Corps military police go to Army schools and so on. So yeah, I mean that it makes sense. It's like a consolidation, so not ever so you don't have this duplication of effort across the services. But you get to Maine and you're like, well, wait a minute, I thought I was in the Air Force. And how long were you in this school?
Well, it was actually Massachusetts
I'm
that they
sorry,
sent me to.
Massachusetts.
Um, well, that's another thing. So with being a Morse code operator or working in signals intelligence, you need a top secret clearance.
Hmm.
So me coming from another foreign country, living there twice, that's a extensive background check. Plus, they have to go to Japan to have that interview with somebody, you know. So,
Yeah.
um, normally, probably basic Morse and advanced Morse was probably 4 months total, but
Mhm.
I was there 8 months.
Oh, so twice as long as you needed to be.
Yep. Yep. So that's a lot of CQ duty waiting for your approval for your clearance.
Right. No doubt. Now I'm
A lot
gonna.
of Jerry Springer.
uh, yeah, I remember that. So I'm gonna ask, like, during this time, had you started drinking at this time, or is this something that happens later on,
Good question.
or does this kind of creep up on you?
No, I think actually when I got to Fort Devens um, in 1993, you know, you'd have dorm parties and, you know, we're still kids,
Yeah.
but with responsibilities. So we would sneak parties and all that. Um, this is when, at that same time, is when my dad became sober for the first time. Um, and yeah, so that's kind of weird how that all worked out.
Mhm.
He started becoming sober and I started my addiction. Um,
Right.
but yeah, it was around 93 that and then I got stationed in Hawaii after um, my tech school.
Uh huh.
And then being single in Hawaii, oh my gosh, it's just open the can twice, 3 times. Let's go,
Yeah.
you know? So,
Right. Well,
yeah.
and everybody thinks I'd love to be stationed in Hawaii, but it's an island. Like after a couple of months, isn't it just like, holy crap, I'm on an island?
Yeah, I would say it's a great place to visit, but the worst place to live. I
Yeah.
mean, because if you live there, then all your other family wants to come visit because they have a free place to stay and a tour guide, you know?
Right. Right. So how long were you in Hawaii?
I was in Hawaii from 1994 to 97, so 3 years.
Okay. All right. And
Yeah,
any highlights from your time in Hawaii? Anything you want to share about that while we're talking?
I would love. Yeah, yeah. So while I was in tech school, I met my first wife, um, and thought that I could show her what love was. Thought I could show her what the world was. You know, open her eyes to what just Massachusetts, you know, showed her.
Right.
And yeah, we got married in Hawaii at the Eternal Flame, and we had my daughter Jenna
Uh huh.
in '96. Um, yeah, that's the two major things that came out of there was the marriage and having my daughter.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so
Mhm.
how long were you married then?
My first marriage was from for 7 years.
Okay.
Yeah. Hmm.
Okay.
I've always said that marriage is the leading cause of divorce. So I'm 0 and 2 right now, but again, like I was saying earlier, that was who I was then, and I understand now what it is. I
Yeah.
know what love is, as Forrest Gump would say.
Yeah. Well, I'm 1 and 2 on the marriage front. I'm doing really well now, but I had my moments. So you stayed in Hawaii then, and then so where did you go from Hawaii?
So in '97, I got orders to Fort Meade, Maryland.
Okay.
Um, that's where I worked at the National Security Agency from
Mhm.
all my career, but was actually stationed to work there um, from '97 to 2002. And that's probably where it all started going down, crumbling. The addiction started getting more and more every day. My marriage was getting worse and worse every day. I still was able to shine as an airman in NCO, shit hot, you know, because if you show that you're ironed and creased, they're never going to see what's in the house.
Right.
Like I was saying earlier, you know, um, and always my performances were always excelled, but I had my addiction and it was getting worse and worse every day. So I thought I was good at hiding it, but what I also was doing was I was surrounding myself with individuals with the same addiction or on their way with that addiction. Because
Hmm.
who's going to bitch about you drinking when they're doing the same thing? So I, I will admit that I was not the best father. I was not the best husband, and I was not the best person for myself. And that was a struggle till 2018. But that's when it started. That poison, that devil took over, and I actually create. And then it's going to sound weird, but it only makes sense to me. I created a persona other than John, my soul, and it was JB, my initials.
Mm-hmm.
JB didn't give a shit. JB ran around, manipulated, cheated, stealed. That dude was free game, and now I understand who that was, and that's dancing with the devil,
Mm-hmm.
and he can go in his corner and wait. So yeah, that was a lot, but
No, and it makes sense. I think that in any situation like that, you will reach an inflection point where you can't function, right? Like there's a lot of, I hear the term functioning alcoholics. Like your father did a great job, and was a good dad and raised you guys, but he was fighting some sort of demon,
yeah.
just as you were. And then listening to your story, right? There's no, I don't hear any huge childhood trauma or anything like that. You just started drinking.
It was trying to find a place. I've
Mm-hmm.
always been trying to be accepted. I've always been trying to find, where do I fit in, or purpose, or um I look at myself now as, it's okay not to have a million friends. Just be friends with yourself. I mean, I've had to live life through movies, because that's how I learned culture.
Right.
You know, while I was in Japan, I had to watch Dukes of Hazzard to see what these guys were doing back there with Daisy Duke and Bo and Luke.
Yeah.
I had to catch up. So I think my favorite movie is the movie Stand By Me. That's a movie about five boys who were thick as thin, and I thought that's what friends were.
Mm-hmm.
Gordy, Vern, come on, Vern, all that, and
Right.
that's how I portrayed friends to be. And when I try to make those friends that way, I was either dismissed or picked on, or accepted, but just because I don't know.
Right.
A lot of counseling.
But your drinking buddies will always accept you.
True.
Right? Doesn't
Yep.
matter. And that's part of the problem. So you're there, you say you were working for the NSA at the time? Was that?
Yeah.
Okay, and everything's kind of falling apart. What finally happened with that marriage?
So as the marriage is falling apart, I got a DUI in 2001.
Uh-huh.
Alcohol still. There was, I would, I would say I was just two young kids who, they knew what love is, who, was blessed with a wonderful daughter.
Mm-hmm.
And, after that, the chapter ended and it's time to move on and go your own ways. I still connect with her. I mean, it's her mother. We still talk, but
Right.
it's just understanding that, I had a problem. She was still figuring her stuff out, and it didn't work out. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So you end
Drunk
up
and dumb.
well, I think sometimes when people get married young, they grow differently and it just doesn't work out. And
Yeah.
if you add in being in the military and having an alcohol problem and having some self-esteem issues, none of that's a recipe for success unless you figure it out and then you can make it work. So you're
But that's a
divorced.
good point. I wasn't ready to work anything out.
Yeah.
I was just, yeah. So that's a good point.
Yeah. So do you stay there then in Maryland for the rest of your career, or where do you?
No. So, um, after 2001, I got my DUI. I
Mhm,
went to Norfolk, Virginia for a month of rehab.
mhm.
Um, and then in 2002, I received orders to Anchorage, Alaska. So after covering, or putting a Band-Aid over my addiction, um, I got to go to another big old island by myself. No one knew anything, and start all over again.
Well, John, could I
So
just
no,
could I just interrupt you here? I think that probably that was the worst place to send a guy who's a recovering alcoholic.
oh, it
Am
was,
I
yeah,
wrong?
it's dark half the year. Everybody else is single and doing the same thing, and you find like-minded people, and they're easy to find.
Mm-hmm.
And oh my gosh, yeah, I had a blast. Yeah,
I'll
you
bet.
know,
I bet. Well, and you're
JB had a
still young.
blast.
You're still young too, right? So there's still this part where this is just normal, young adult behavior.
Yeah, I was 27 when I got there and left at 30.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was again shit hot, awards, promotion, stuff like that. But in our schedule was a Panama schedule, which no one's familiar. It's 3 days on, 2 days off, 2 days on, 3 days off. So you're off every other weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. You're pretty much half the year you're off.
Yeah.
And if you take 2 days of leave, you get 7 days of leave. So, yeah, let's play ball. So every time we're off work, it was 3 days of binge drinking and just enough to get right to go back to work.
Right.
So,
And
so
nobody's checking on you because you went through rehab, so you must be good, right?
but no one's really checking on you because they're doing it with you,
Oh, that's
you
true.
know,
Yeah.
and then just going into work and you have each other's back, the good old boy system.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
Yeah. So
So yeah,
was Alaska just kind of a blur then?
pretty much it was um, if I could say anything significant out of it, every day was a postcard. Every day was a Kodak moment. Um,
Yeah.
Other than that, the rest was probably hell. Yeah.
So where did you go from Alaska?
After Alaska, I went back to good old Fort Meade where it all started.
Uh huh.
Um, yep. And again, I mean, I worked at the highest place in the building and continued the same John and JB, roles.
Right.
Um,
Only this time you're not
and
married, right? You're still single.
no, I
Oh.
got married again.
Okay.
I got married again in 2000 after I got back from Iraq, 2009.
Okay. All right.
I'm sorry, after Fort Meade or after Alaska, I got Fort Meade,
Uh huh.
and then in 2008 I went to Iraq.
Okay. So let's talk
Yeah,
about that a little bit if you want to.
sure. Um, the getting married again or Iraq?
Let's kind of keep it in sequence. So you went to Iraq before you got married again, correct?
Right.
Okay.
So I met this girl who I knew her sister when I was stationed in Hawaii.
Mm-hmm.
So anyways, I met her and great girl. We bought a house. We had a 4-bedroom house. We had a man cave. We had a white picket fence with a pool. I thought I was at my kingdom, but I was really starting to dig my hole
Mm-hmm.
of just keep digging your hole. Um, so then I got orders. I mean, I got orders to deploy to Iraq in '08 to '09. So I was there a year.
Mm-hmm.
That was good for sobriety. I mean, I couldn't drink. So, and I did really good. There was no like withdrawals or shakes or anything like that. So, I just remember kind of feeling like when I left the United States, I put a tomato plant in the dirt, a seed,
Mm-hmm.
and then I went to Iraq, and then I came home a year later, and that tomato plant was just full of fruit, full of just life. So I got to come home and see what the experience happened of was, but I wasn't there to witness it. So coming home after a year, I felt like I missed out on so much. The house is different. Everybody has new stories. Um,
Yeah,
yeah, I didn't like the
like
seclusion sucked.
life goes on, right? When you're gone,
Yes,
life still goes on. So tell me a little bit about your time in Iraq. Where were you at?
I was at Camp Cropper, and um, it's where they put Saddam Hussein before he was executed. It
Mm-hmm.
was where all the detainees go. So they would go roll up a bunch of people, and not all of them were, say, a wedding, and 3 of them were bad guys. They would get 10 of them, even though the 3 were bad,
Right.
and they would bring them to the detention center. And I was an analyst for interrogation. So I would have to get these records and see if you're Shia, Sunni, what religion were you, how many wives and kids do you have. I get all this intel, give it to the interrogator, and they would go in and say, "Oh, so I see you have 4 kids. I got kids. I get to go home to them, but you're stuck in here." And then, okay, here's where the weapons are. Here's where the drugs are. Stuff
Right.
like that.
Right.
Yeah, I worked in the jail
Yeah.
of bad guys.
Yeah. Yeah. I was in Mosul in '06,
Okay,
and so I remember dropping guys off at the jail right there. So yep, and it was,
crazy.
yeah, it wasn't pleasant. I'll say that. So yeah, so for a whole year, you're just basically digging up stuff on people so that they can interrogate them and get what they need out of that.
Yep,
How'd that make you?
exactly.
How'd that make you feel? Like how'd you feel about the whole time there? I mean, I don't have a preconceived notion. I mean, some people be like, great, I was helping the country. Some people might not. So I just wonder how it made you feel.
At the time, I didn't know how to feel. I was just following rules and doing as I told because that's what I've been used to all my life. Just,
Yeah.
okay, we're going here now. You're going here now. So I guess without having a choice, I didn't think. Now I think, um, what was I doing? Like, again, I was doing what I was told and what I signed up for, but me now, I just shake my head. I get it. I know what it is. So,
Right. No, I understand. So it was pretty much a routine then. Therefore, I mean, you're in Iraq and it's Iraq and there's still a lot of stuff going on, but you were pretty much into your routine, just kind of doing your thing every day. Is that
no, it was no 12-hour shifts. You go to work and then go to bed and then go to work and go to bed. The food was great. I gained 50 pounds, not drinking.
yeah,
So that was definitely a plus. But once I got back, the drinking just got worse. I
right.
mean, I missed out on a year of drinking. I got to catch up.
Yeah, exactly. I'm curious, like when you're in Iraq and you're not drinking, did you have any sort of, I don't know, I hear people talk about clarity. Was it like, did you have a different like mindset while you were there because you weren't drinking, or it just really didn't change anything?
I would say no, there wasn't a different mindset because you still had non-alcoholic beer in the DFAC. You still were offered 3 Budweisers during the Super Bowl,
Hmm.
which I passed on because don't give me 3. I want 12. And I could already see myself getting ration tickets from other people and getting in trouble and getting kicked out of the country over some beer.
Yeah.
It, I took it as maybe a break and maybe a continue when I get home to not do this anymore. But yeah, you told me I couldn't drink for a year. Okay, I'll wait till I get back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what was it like? You already alluded to the tomato plant and how things had all changed, but what was it like when when you first got back? Like you've been gone for a year, now you're back. Let's talk about that a little bit.
Oh, going from again another Wild Wild West atmosphere to back to overstimulation. There you go 15 miles in a car and you don't have to look around if you're going to get hit by something. You come back to the States, they say watch your 6. Here you're watching your clock.
Right.
You got to watch every angle. So yeah, it was overwhelming. Anxiety built up a lot. I think that might be another way where I got all my anxiety more enhanced of coming back from one situation to another. I hate it.
I've heard people say that, and I've lived it, so I believe this, that the only thing more difficult than going off to war is coming back from it.
Yes. Yeah, I only had to go to year for 1 year. I
Hmm.
live war every day, you
Right.
know?
Right. You're here. So what happened? You got back. Everyone's moved forward, and you're kind of still stuck in the prior year. It sounds like. So
Yeah.
what happens when you get back?
Oh man, alcohol is your best friend. They don't call him Jim, John, and Johnny for nothing. And Jack, you know.
Right.
Um, so yeah, just I missed out on a year, so I'm gonna catch up. The relationship with my second wife started deteriorating. I mean, expectedly, because who wants to put up with that? So yeah, the house. Um, I lived in the house on a short sale.
Mhm.
I don't have to pay rent. Why not? You know.
Right.
So yeah, I just lived there and just did whatever. And then with the grace of God, I got to retire in 2013. I guess the hard work of professional side trumped the addiction side, you know. But either way, it worked out. So then I went to Afghanistan as a contractor after I retired for a
Mhm.
year. So there, as a contractor, yes, I couldn't drink, but in my mind, I'm not a Air Force member anymore. I'm a civilian kind of. So I'm going to break the rules a little bit. So, you know, people would send in the mail tea bottles full with liquor in it, or any way you could get it, you would get it. And I was drinking in Afghanistan at the end of it. But when I noticed me starting drinking like almost every day is when I said, I got to go home. I can't do this.
Right. And what were you
So,
do? What were you
yeah.
doing as a contractor there? It's just Intel stuff still.
Right. I worked at a place called Area 82 in Afghanistan in Bagram, and just helping boots on the ground and doing stuff like that, you
Hmm.
know?
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But
So you come. So then you leave Afghanistan. You come back. Now, by this time, are you divorced again?
yes.
Okay.
Yep.
And you didn't have any children with your second wife.
No, no, we
Okay.
didn't.
All right. So
Yeah.
where do you? So when you say you came back home, where was at this point? Where's home?
I moved back to Fort Meade, Maryland.
Hmm.
The house that was in short sale is now being sold. So that's weight off the shoulders. I was staying with some friends for about 2 weeks. And then, like, I got back from Afghanistan to Jack, Jimmy, John. I found Jose too. He was over there. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I started doing it at their house, you know, at another buddy's family's house, just in the backyard drinking every day. And he's like, John, man, you got to find your own place. You know, you can't be doing this here. I'll help you, but not like that. So
Right.
I found my own place. I uh, I started working at the National Reconnaissance Office, the NRO in Virginia, um, and that was a commute every day of 56 miles in Washington D.C., Maryland, Virginia traffic. So 1 hour trip was a 4 hour trip. You know what I mean?
It's a long time
Um,
in the car. That's for sure.
it sucked. Um, and that was the same schedule as I talked about previously to Panama. We had a 2 on 3 off, 3 on 2 off, and back in the same schedule, 3 days of binge drinking and have to go drive an hour, work 12 hours, and drive 3 hours back. So that tore me up. I beat the hell out of myself for those 4 years. That's when I started not caring about myself anymore. If it
Right.
happened, it happened. If you found me, you found me. It is what it is. I'm done. And I think I really was giving up on myself.
Hmm.
Um,
I want to back up just a little bit. Something you said kind of struck me. When you first bought the house in Maryland, it was white picket fence, man cave, your kingdom. You were loving it. You get back, you get divorced, you're drinking, and you said it finally sold in short sale, and it was a weight off my shoulders. So that thing went from something that really made you happy to just I got to get rid of it, you know. And
mhm.
it just sounds like a little bit of a spiral. And then you're talking about how you've kind of given up on yourself through working at this place. So I didn't mean to interrupt, but I just wanted to make that point that, you know, you went from, hey, this is pretty cool to, holy crap, I got to get out of here.
Yeah, and I think by me saying that is the position or where I'm at today.
Uh-huh.
I live in a 1 bedroom apartment with 4 corners, and everything I need I can put in my car. So, you know, that 4 bedroom pool, man cave, everything that I thought that I needed to keep up with the Joneses or, you know, la la, or keep me entertained, No, sir. I have it all right here, and that's just a peaceful mind, a beautiful soul, and a loving heart. You know,
Right. Well,
and I
stuff.
think that's what it's all about.
Yeah, stuff doesn't make you happy
No.
at all. So let's go back to you're still living at Fort Meade. You're doing this commute. You're like in this sounds like this kind of this downward trend. So what happens? You did that for like 4 years. What happens after that?
Right. So within those 4 years, I'm still lying, cheating, manipulating, all those things I was talking about earlier. I met a wonderful girl, going through her own personal struggles, and I always say it's like two angels meeting. We met for a reason. We helped each other out with each of our own problems. And through all that, in October 10th of 2018, I was hospitalized with a rare blood disease called TTP. I don't know the medical term, but it affects your platelet counts. And as humans, we're supposed to have like 250,000 count. My count was 1, 2, 12. So was hospitalized for 10 days. I had to get um, platelet or plasma or some.
Oh, transfusions.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
they gave you
I,
more platelets probably.
yes,
Yeah.
I had to get all that. So I was gonna die, and this is my second near death. My first one was in 2011, where I was on dialysis for 8 months
Hmm.
with kidney failure. So, anyways, back to this one in 2018. The doctor came up to me and said, "John, you can never drink again." And I still remember him, Dr. Singh, telling me that. And since that, never drink again. Um, and that's where my new chapter started. I started seeing angel numbers. I started seeing spiritual stuff, universe stuff, kind of looking like, what is going on here? What is this? I would call it a calling, and I know it sounds weird to
Not at all.
whoever's listening, but this is what I've experienced,
Right.
and um, I continue today just to be positive, um, using my words, not just to anybody, but to myself. How you speak to yourself, um, I, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So this is after everything I've just talked about from 1974 to today. It's been a struggle, but every day is a blessing now.
Hmm. How do you not drink? I mean, I know that there's always the fear of I can't drink because it's going to make me sick again. But how do you? I mean, that was such a big part of your life. How do you not do it?
Great question. It's on every corner, and there's a reason why it never goes above $9.99. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Eggs go up, but beer never does.
Right.
It doesn't bother me or bug me because I know it is a poison.
Hmm.
I know what it is, um, and I know why I did it. It's just to be accepted, and those guys will accept anybody, or those, that group will accept anybody because you know, and
Right.
and the addict loves an addict. Come on in. So I think it was more just for an acceptance, not to be judged, because I know I'm different. So if I'm drunk, you can't tell if I'm different or drunk. It's just part of it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's probably why.
So it sounds like self acceptance too. Like you never really accepted yourself, but now it sounds like you're on that path.
I didn't know myself. I've
Yeah.
had to change. I've had to be a chameleon all my life.
Hmm.
Stand against the wall and then take all others in. I'm also an empath. My light shines so bright, and I want to help everybody. Like that porch on your light, that light
Yeah.
on your porch. I turn it on, and all the bugs come. Um, but now I've learned to not shine it on others. I'll always shine. You can come to me because if I go to you and try to help you or see if anything's wrong, and you tell me get the hell away, I don't need you, then my feelings get hurt. I feel dismissed. I feel like you're mean to me, you know. But no, you just don't want to be bothered. And so I'm understanding Not who I understand who JB was and why, but understanding more and more who John is,
Mhm.
and I think that's the best part.
That really
Yep,
is.
every day I get to learn.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, so tell me about this. We kind of glossed over this. Tell me about this girl that you met. Um, in are you still seeing each other?
No, no,
Um,
that was just a period of time in Maryland where just loved her. Always will love her. Wish her the best. And like I said, it was just I every 7 years I think I'm in a new book, and I think that was part of the 7 years in the chapter.
yeah.
So
Well,
yeah.
do you believe that sometimes like there's people that think I'm crazy about this, but I think that we have transitional relationships, and what I mean by that is, like, I could have this person who's my best friend for years and years and years and years, but then it just kind of plays itself out, and they were there, we loved each other, and we were good, but now it doesn't work anymore, and you have to kind of let that go. You know, you don't have to keep all of your friends for the rest of your life. That there are people who come and go for different reasons. You know, we don't know what the reasons are, but they come and go for different reasons.
I totally agree with that. I believe everybody is my best friend when I meet you the first time,
Hmm.
because we're all connected. If we have the same values and we have the same thinking mindsets, that makes it easier to have a better relationship. But everybody's an individual, and you can't control their choice, their mindset, their thinking, So if anybody ever wants to pick up the phone and holler at me, I'm going to pick up and holler you back. It's two-way communication, a receiver communicator. It all goes together.
Right,
And I'm sure if you saw that friend who you haven't spoke to in 7 years tomorrow, it'd just be like catching up yesterday,
right.
you know?
Yep.
So
We probably
I
won't
agree
hang
with
out.
you.
We probably won't hang out, but we'll talk.
Yeah.
That kind of
Yeah.
thing. Yeah, yeah. So what's going on with John now? I mean, you've got your apartment. You kind of have figured you kind of figured yourself out actually, and so what's going on now?
Great question. Thank you. So in 2020, that's when stuff started. Well, COVID happened, and that's when stuff started to happen with me. I started just be like, I guess say the word enlightened.
Hmm.
Um, I read well, I like listening to audiobooks. I listened to The Law of Attraction, the only book you need to read or listen to. And man, manifesting is true
Hmm.
because I live it every day. Every day I sit and laugh because time doesn't matter anymore. It'll happen when it happens. But when something does happen, I just sit back and I'm like, there it is. And um, it started out when I moved to Oklahoma in 2020 during COVID to be closer to my mom, my dad, and my sister and my immediate family. Rather, my daughter's still in Maryland. She's fine with her mom.
Hmm.
Um, so I needed to move to get away from my environment of alcoholic drinking, Maryland, friends, all that stuff. Start over. So I came to Oklahoma in 2020. Stayed with my sister for about 6 months. I tried to go out on my own and figure it out. Um, I want to be an actor. I want to be an entertainer. I want to be a clown, center of attention. So, as a kid, I've done a lot of plays. I was a mascot for a high school team. So I'm like, I'm going to use this quality of John that I know is me and go do something with it. So I started pursuing acting in Oklahoma because California was taxes are high and they would come over here for a tax break and stuff like that. So I started driving Lyft just to get to know the area and meet people. So as driving Lyft, I met a customer who owned a dinner detective murder mystery. That's where you go in as a customer and you watch a play, and the murderer can be right near you as an actor.
Hmm.
So I was telling him my vision, and he was like, "Oh, I own this business. Why don't you show up tomorrow?" So I did, and I became part of that. Being part of that, I started doing improv. I started doing like open. I did an open mic at a comedy show. All this going on. Then I started getting acting gigs. I got to do. Killers of the Flower Moon with Leonardo DiCaprio and Martin Scorsese. You know, I got to be on set. I was not on the movie, but I was there for 3 days.
Yeah.
I got to do VH1 mini series about a diamond heist. I was I got to work for the Oklahoma Thunder as a storm chaser, which is like a hype man throwing T-shirts and yelling defense. Um, Man, I've got to do a lot of cool things, and but as doing them, I'll put up Hollywood as quotes. Jack, it's just a nasty environment. They have no couth. They don't know how to talk to you. It's all about getting the shot and getting the money, which I understand, but I didn't belong in that bubble, and I didn't want to be in that bubble. So I got to experience something that I've been wanting to do. Prove to myself that I can do it. As long as you put in, as long as you believe it, you perceive it, you will receive it. So have a thought, put in work, and it'll happen. It's that easy. Um,
Hey, John,
and
something I want to point out that you just said that's super super important. So, I have read the books that you're talking about as well as a couple of others, and many people read those books and they think, well, I just have to put it out in the universe and it'll come to me. You still got to put in the work. Like you still got to put in the work. You still got to, but you put in the work with the thought process that this is going to happen and this is happening. But you can't just sit on your couch and manifest something. And I don't want people to get confused about that. Like you still got to do the stuff to make it happen, but it's not going to happen if you don't do these other things.
very true. Thank you for adding that. Yeah, write it down in a journal. You know, instead of saying, "Oh, man, I wish I had some money." You
Yeah.
know, the easiest thing is thank you for the abundance of wealth that's coming my way, and imagine that lottery ticket or whatever it is, and I guarantee you'll find a penny on the ground. Don't call it coincidence. It's what you asked for. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely. If you shit in one hand and wish in the other, that's what you're gonna get.
Yeah. Which one fills up first? Another book you might want to check out too is called God Winks. And it's about
God
those,
winks.
yeah,
Okay.
God Winks, GODWINKS. And it's about those happy coincidences that aren't really coincidences. Anyway, it travels right along with what you're saying. So it sounds to me like you're just living your best life now.
I am, especially with the help of, well, in 2022, I was really sinking deeper and into a hole, getting into myself, getting into my head. I'm not worth it. What are you doing? Your purpose is nothing. Who are you? So I reached out to an old high school buddy from Yokota in Japan, who was a, army guy. He did the special rangers, army ranger stuff, really been through some stuff. So I reached out to him and explained my experience. And he's telling me I'm getting goosebumps just listening to you, John, because I feel what you're throwing down. So he invited me to his place in Washington State, and I got to see nature. Did I get to see nature? Oh, and it spoke to me. It said, "Hey, man, what are you doing out there? That crazy? Come in here." And I did. And when I got back to Oklahoma, I was looking at a veterans newsletter, which I never even pick up. I'm like, oh, delete.
Right.
And I just started reading it, and I saw this program called No Barriers for Warriors in Colorado. So I got up at 12 at night and I filled out the application and did what I had to do, and I hit submit. And 3 months later, I got a call or an email saying that I was accepted to go on this adventure. 1 week adventure in Colorado to elevate a 13,000-foot mountain, pooping in the woods, sleeping in a tent, eating dehydrated food. Sign me up. I don't know what I'm getting into, but it sounds great. And it was the worst thing I've ever done in my life. This was not in the brochure. This is not what I signed up for. Where am I at? But it was the best thing I've ever done in my life because it showed myself, I was allowed to show myself grace. I was, I beat myself up. I yelled at myself, but I also just loved myself. And I got up that damn mountain, and it continued to lead to other programs such as Waypoint for veterans, which I got to go to Utah and experience Mount Zion through the Narrows, rappelling, hiking, and camping. Um, I got to go to Camp Southern Ground, which is in Georgia by a country music singer, Zach Brown, who teaches you about your, I got this out, your strengths which I'm strategic, I'm an individual, I'm positive, ideation and connectedness. I mean, just these words explain so much and mean so much to finally understand who the hell I am, you know,
Hmm.
and your Enneagram, which is I'm a peacemaker, I'm an achiever, I'm a helper, I'm an individualist, and I'm a loyalist. Those are amazing words. And that's me. So these programs, not just, yeah, you get to go skiing and you get to go climb mountains and it's beautiful, but it's helped me tremendously on finding out who the hell I am and what's next.
Yeah.
So,
Well, that's awesome. So, what do you think is next?
well, that's a kind of a good question. I just signed up for another trip to Costa Rica to do ayahuasca.
Uh-huh.
So, yeah, I want to see what that's going to open up. Um, I'm also just about to finish my degree in social psychology to use that to help other people with addiction, just so they don't have to go through half the shit that I went through. So if I can help that, that's what I want to do.
All right. Well, excellent. Well, it sounds like you're on the path. At this point, and it's kind of been fascinating, like learning about you and following you, through all of these things, and not a lot of people have that self awareness that you have. Before we kind of wrap up our discussion, is there anything that we haven't talked about that you want to talk about?
Um, I can't think of anything. I mean, I have highlights upon highlights upon highlights, but I think this is the most important. What we went over is just, you could come from somewhere, come from anywhere, but eventually you're going to be you and be where you're at. And um, like you said, the self awareness, I'm so grateful I have it. And I finally realized it because I didn't know I had a choice. I didn't know I was allowed to do other things. And that's probably the one thing I'm still struggling with is, um, transforming from a military member to a civilian, because I still go out. I still don't think I can go out past 10 o'clock at night or something's going to happen. You know what I mean? There's rules and regulations still in my head where I can go do what I want.
Right.
But that's what I'm working on now is what is, what am I going to do when I grow up and what it's going to be like when I grow up. But time will tell, right?
Yeah.
Which we never make.
There you go. There you go. All right. Well, we'll wrap up our conversation today. I always ask everyone the same last and final question. It's the only one that's scripted, not from your end, but from my end, because I always ask it. And that is, when someone listens to your story years from now, like when both of us are not here anymore, what message do you have for them?
To never give up, to fight every day, to love yourself, um, give yourself grace, give yourself compassion, treat yourself as you would treat your best friend. Um, Life is great. Live it every day.
All right. Thanks, John. Thanks for taking the time out to talk with me today. I really appreciate it.
Well, I thank you so much. Have a
Thank
great
you
day.
for watching the story of one of our nation's heroes on Veterans Archives, where your story matters. We are dedicated to preserving these stories for future generations.